H2KInfosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2KInfosys supports 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus. One-time pay, lifetime access to live classes and videos. H2KInfosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For free demo class, visit h2kinfosys.com.
Hi, this is Kaushik again. So we're going to see the usage of hash table in Selenium. Now, most of the time, the usage of the hash table as far as Selenium is concerned is to basically keep the test data in key value pair. Now, why do you want to keep the test data in key value pair? So that these test data can be used for the purpose of parameterization. Now, we already know what is parameterization. It's a process of running the test script those number of times as the number of data is present in a test. So if we have, let's say, two pair of test data sets, the script is going to run two times. Each time it runs, it will basically take up the individual data sets. That's what is parameterization. And out here, I'm going to use the TestNG framework along with your Selenium WebDriver script in order to create this parameterization effect. And the annotation that I'm going to use is the data provider annotation of your TestNG framework. So let us go ahead and look at this. So I'm going to create a project called as hash table in Selenium. Okay, that's the project name. This precisely means hash table usage in Selenium. And I'm going to go to next, click on next, and get the libraries of our Selenium WebDriver API. So I'm going to use the 2.53 version, the latest version of Selenium out here. Control A, click on open. Basically gets all the jar files of Selenium 2.53 version, and there are certain jar files inside the Selenium folder, also these two, which has to be also exported. This particular project. After doing that, click on order and export, select all, click on finish. Okay. Now after this, we're going to use a package, create a package, and this package will be called as usage of hash table. Inside this package, I'm going to create a class file, let's say as hash table. And Selenium out here. I'm not going to call the main method because I'm going to use the TestNG framework, and I'm going to use the annotation of TestNG framework, which is on a data provider. So we're going to see how do we actually do parameterization with your data provider annotation. Okay, and then see how hash table helps out in creating a better procedure in doing parameterization. So first, the general method of creating a parameterization. So we need to use the test annotation, define the method of the test annotation. Let's say login procedure. So we're going to add the TestNG library, and after that we're going to import the TestNG annotation from the TestNG package. Okay, now here as a global variable, we are going to define the reference of the WebDriver instance. You can define it as null so that it can be used to open up any kind of browser, let's say Firefox, Chrome, or IE. We're going to import the WebDriver interface in this particular class file. After that, let's say we use the WebDriver instance to open up the Firefox browser. So we are going to call driver is equal to new Firefox driver. going to import the Firefox driver class of the WebDriver interface. So this is going to open the Firefox browser. So let us open the Firefox browser at our end. After this, we cannot navigate to Gmail application. So we're going to use driver.get method. Here we define the URL, that is accounts.google.com. So we're going to navigate to the same URL. Now let me sign out of all and add an account. So this is the page that you actually get. Now I need to basically type in my username. So for finding this element, we will use the Firebug, and Firebug has a tab called Firepath, through which I'll get the XPath of this particular text field. So let me get the XPath. This is the XPath of this. Copy this out here. Now the next thing is that after navigating, I'm going to type the username. For that, we have to use the find element method and use the by classes method called as XPath. Here we define the XPath that we have copied. Paste it out here. Dot. Now what are we going to send? I'm going to send this particular username, that is Kaushik qtp@zanantech.com, and after that we're going to click on the next button. So for clicking on the next button, we need to get the XPath of the next button. This is the XPath, so we'll copy it out here. Click on the next button. So driver.find element method using the by classes method called XPath, and paste that particular XPath dot submit. Why we're going to use submit method? Because it's part of the form tag. I know it. So after that, I'm going to use the thread.sleep method because the page is going to change. So this thread.sleep method is going to create a static wait of 5 seconds, and this actually creates an exception. So I will handle the exception using the throws clause. So this changes the state of the application. So if I give, let's say, an URL, any URL like this, and click on next, the state of the application changes. And now I need to give the password. So I need to get the XPath of the password. This is the XPath. So here I'm going to basically type in the password. This is typing in the username. This is type password. Okay, so driver dot find element is the method which has the by class argument passed on with the XPath method, and this is the XPath that I had copied for the password field. Dot send, and I need to give the password. I'm not going to give the real password. I'm going to give the wrong password, but it will basically take the password, whatever password I'm giving. So let's say test@123. I don't want to indulge my password. So 1234, for example. We got to see that the parameterization is happening or not. So even if it's the wrong password, the parameterization is going to happen. So after this, I'm going to click on the, which is the buttons. For example, I give on test@1234. click on the sign in button. So I need to get the X path of the sign in. So we click out here, copy, and click on the sign in button. So driver dot find element by the X path expression. So this is the X path that I've copied for the sign in button. Sorry. Dot submit method. Okay. And after this, I'm going to do the last step, that is close the browser. So closing the browser, I'm going to basically use driver dot quit method. The quit method is going to close all the windows associated with that particular browser. Not only the main window, the sub windows or the child windows will also get closed. So this is basically the login procedure. This is the method of the test annotation, and this is going to open up the Firefox and do the certain step or the transaction steps based on whatever script has been made. Now I want to basically, parameterize this particular script. Okay, for parameterizing, we need to use, this is the body of the test annotation method. For parameterization, we need to use the data provider annotation present in test annotation. So I will use the data provider out here. And we are going to create the method of the data provider. The return type of data provider is a two-dimensional object array. So I'll create a two-dimensional object array. And then you give the method name. Let's say the method name is data repo or login data, for example. That is the method name. And the name has been given in such a format that we understand that this is a repository of data for the login procedure. That is why I've given the name as login data. You always give a logical name to a annotation method. Now this is the object. Now you have to create the object array. Now object is considered as a superclass. It can take any kind of data, or either a string type or a long type or a double type or any type of data it can take. That is why it's called a superclass. So I'll call this variable as obj, which is equal to new object array. And let's say I have to define the element size. So I will have 2 rows and 2 columns. Now this has to be very clearly understood. Number of rows is equal to number of times the test annotation method runs first. So if the number of rows is 2, this annotation method, test annotation method, will run 2 times. Okay, and the number of columns is size 2, then the column size is 2. So if the number of columns is equal to number of fields that are getting parameterized. Okay, now if this is like this, now I need to basically connect the data provider, this data provider, with this test annotation method. How do I do that? There is a parameter in your test annotation, okay, which is called as data provider, and the return type of this is a string. Okay, so this is the method name. So copy the method name out here and put it to the data provider parameter value. This connects the data provider with this test annotation method first. And that means if the number of rows are 2, this test annotation method is going to run 2 times. Each time it runs, it is going to take the data. I've just defined the object array element size and defined the object array out here. Now I have to define the data of the first row. So how do I define the data of the first row? So obj is the variable of the object array. So first row, first column, which is equal to, for example, the username. The username, I'll take it as, let's say, Kaushik QTP @sarantic.com. So the first row, first column defines the username. Okay, now we will define the first row, second column. The first row, second column will have 0th index, and the second column will have the first index. This will define the password. Now the password right now is, let's say, I'm giving a wrong password precisely. I want to enter my password @123. So this first row, second column defines the password. Now please understand there are two rows. This is only of the first row, or the data for the first row. Similarly, there will be data for the second row. The second row will have index number 1, first column. So this I will change it to, for example, Kaushik. I'll change it to, for example, online trading Kaushik 2@gmail.com. Okay, and this I'll change it to test@5678. This will be second row, second column. This defines the password. So since there are two rows, you are defining the data for the two rows, and since there are two columns in each row, you're defining the first column as the username and the second column as the password. Now remember one particular thing: number of columns is equal to number of fields that are getting parameterized. So which are the fields which are getting parameterized? The username and the password field. So here is the username that we have given, here is the password that we have given. Remember with that one particular thing: if the number of columns are 2, what you need to ensure is that the arguments of the test annotation method should be 2. So string